We are looking at reading number 5 from the Good and Evil series. Today we're going to be looking at No God, No Good or Evil. You should really dig this session as it gives you a chance to focus on some bottom lines of the coexistence of a loving God with good and evil. Your students don't have to like evil, none of us do, but they do have to know that God has a good reason and He gave us a way out. Welcome to Tested as Trained, where our goal is to present Scripture and the evidence for Christianity in a way that destroys arguments and pretensions of every kind that sets itself up against the knowledge of God in order to keep our kids in the faith. The purpose of this video is to guide your preparation for this session. You will have the correct answers to the questions, learn the key ideas, and gain some ideas for engaging your students in the discussion. Key takeaways for today. Number 1, as Christians, our job isn't to prove that God exists because of evil, but to show that God's existence is not incompatible with evil. We want to show that God is possible in spite of evil. Number 2, if there is no God, then there is no real good or evil in the world. Looking at our questions, number 1, the coexistence of evil and a loving God are hard to understand emotionally. I would say that's true. Number 2, the evidence for God is used to show that God is possible and probable. That is also true. Number 3, skeptics want to believe that their moral sense is more than just instinct. True. Number 4, if there is no God, there is no meaning, value, or purpose to life. True. And number 5, Jesus suffered and died for each of us. That is also true. As you engage with the kids, spend some time illuminating the hopelessness of a life without God. Cover again how there can be no good or evil without God. Take a step back and introduce or cover some of the other areas of evidence that make the existence of God probable, such as the creation, fine-tuning, and the existence of intricately designed life. With such strong evidence for God coming from multiple different directions, a reasonable person should seek to understand how God and evil can coexist. If you haven't done so yet, begin to tie in God's plan of redemption for each of us. The only path to heaven goes through a decision for Jesus Christ. That path and that decision would not be possible if Jesus hadn't paid the price for our sin through His brutal torture and death at the hands of the Jewish leaders and the Roman authorities. It is what we would consider evil, but God, who is all-knowing and all-loving, worked it out for the good of those who love Him and who are called according to His purposes. God is merciful to give us a path to eternal joy. Come up with your own. Remember to use current events or relate things that are happening in your community or in the lives of your kids to make these lessons real. Ask a bunch of questions. The next session is a recap of the entire Good and Evil series. Going over each of the 25 questions that the kids have learned over the past several weeks is a critical component of the testing methodology. Empathize with their distaste for evil and suffering, but cover the logical thought processes behind free will, objective moral standards, and God's sufficient reasons for allowing evil into the world. Contrast the hope we have in eternity with the hopelessness of a universe and life created by accident. Respect your kids' intellect, test their knowledge of Scripture and the evidence that supports the claims of Scripture, and you are training them to impact the world for Christ. I speak and train extensively on the topic of properly training our youth, and I'm happy to consider engaging with your organization too. Please send an email to me at b@bracebarber.com if you have any requests, questions, comments, critiques, or ideas. Have a blessed day.